Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'll be sharing how I travel. So I'll be speaking on booking flights, booking accommodation, and transportation. When traveling, there are some mistakes you will make, whether it is forgetting to upload that document or download that app. So I will share my mistakes as well as my overall method to traveling. And hopefully you can learn from this if you don't already know these already. Now, hopping right into the first one, flights. I always use Google Flights. That is where I start first. I have never used Expedia or other websites, only start with Google Flights. For me, I check Google Flights for a round trip or one ways, but mostly only do one ways, but I still check both to see the price comparison. So I enter my departing country and the country which I'm arriving, and then I scroll through the options in which Google Flights presents you. And this is why I use Google Flights, because they offer the various routes, the shortest routes, the longest routes, the cheapest routes, the most expensive routes. So obviously I look for the shortest, cheapest route. Then from there, I usually go to the specific airline web pages and book the flight. Because once you book the flight through there, then they also notify you of every country you are going to enter, of their requirements. And that is what takes the hassle and worry from traveling. Because now with COVID in the air, everyone is a bit like, should I travel? Should I not travel? What is required for me to travel? I'm not sure. But outside of the visa situation, if you need a visa or not, those requirements are going to be stipulated. They sometimes even pop up on the web pages once you book that flight, or before you even book that flight. They usually pop up and let you know, hey, do you comply with these requirements for that country in which you want to go to, or which you are arriving in on this day, on that date? So I advise always book through the airline web pages. Use Google Flights to find those routes and those prices that you prefer, and then use the websites to book. Now, I mentioned earlier, I usually look for the shortest, cheapest route. Yes, but that is where my hiccup now came into play. So to explain my situation, when I originally left Barbados to go to Mexico, I went from Barbados to Miami, Miami to Mexico City, Mexico City to Merida. Now, traveling for the first time, booking the cheapest flights, accepting the long route, I didn't have a grandiose time while traveling. What happened is that I had an overnight layover in Miami, which wasn't too bad because I had a friend also visiting Miami for that one night, so we shared a hotel room. That was perfect. From there, the next morning, I got up early and I hopped on the flight to Mexico City, where I had a 2.5-hour layover, which didn't actually turn out to be a 2.5 layover because I had to check in to the other one in a different language that I never spoke at an airport I never visited, and the signs are in Spanish. So it was a bit hectic running, trying to get everything done. It took me 2 complete hours to actually get from my flight and to fully check in and sit down at the gate to leave. So which means I had a half an hour to play with. I was hungry, I was exhausted from all the thinking and planning and not eating enough or walking with food to eat. So I didn't want to move from there because I thought, oh, I get lost in this airport, I might miss my flight. So I just thought to relax. Got on the flight, it is Volaris. That is another mistake I made in my opinion, because that is a local airlines for Mexico. I'm not sure if other Latin American countries as well, but for both flights from Miami to Mexico City and from Mexico City to Merida were both Volaris, and they only offered Mexican type meals and snacks. So spicy and cheesy, which I am not a fan of either. So needless to say, I didn't eat for a while. I arrived in Merida that night, and then we had like a freak rainstorm on the tarmac, which obviously extended the time of me thinking I would arrive at somewhere that I can get food at. So I said that to say this. Some of the takeaways: 1, don't necessarily go for the cheapest flight, but more so go for the most direct flight with the shortest amount of time. Or if you're going that cheapest flight for that long haul, make sure to plan accordingly, such as eating a meal before getting on the planes and walking with a meal, and buying food in the various destinations that you can handle. And I forgot to mention, I also did not include luggage, and I did walk with a check-in bag for each of those flights. So then I had to pay extra at check-ins when I did. So that's another hiccup that you can learn from as well, to make sure to add in and pay for that luggage in advance so you wouldn't be surprised once you arrive there. Unless you already planned for that in your head, but I definitely did not. Something else to note when entering countries probably for a longer stay, I know some persons only book that one-way ticket and only go in, but I always made sure I had a ticket to leave that country. So on entering, it wouldn't be suspicious, oh, how long do you plan to stay here for? And then they have a chance to give me days in a sense. I've already pre-selected and showed them that I am entering and leaving on these specific dates, and this is my plan. When persons usually enter with only one way ticket without any exit, then they get a bit skeptical. So what I usually do, again, Google Flights, I enter the destination and where I'll be, and then I look for the cheapest flight. I pull up the map and I look for the cheapest flight to another country, whether it is a $35, $85, $161, whichever one is the cheapest flight out of that country for the date, probably 2 months, 3 months when I plan to leave, I book that. So obviously, if you have money in your budget to play around with that, do so. But before booking that flight, also read up on the airline's cancellation and changing of flight policy. Because one airline, I was able to cancel and redeem the money I spent on a new flight. Another airline, when I wanted to change flights, charged me a flight changing fee, which was 50 USD. So to take that into account for your budget and be mindful of that as well. But that is how I travel. So sometimes I reach the destination, once I get in, I will cancel the flight and then say, hey, I want to stay here longer. Because originally, I got to Panama and I only wanted to stay for 1 week. I had my flight out to my next location, and now I've been here like 3 weeks, and I just booked a new flight, extended my flight basically. I extended it out for another 2 months. So if you have that maneuverability in your budget, take that into account. One more thing on flights, be mentally prepared to check in 3 to 4 hours early. Me, I'm just cautious like that. My friend, he always goes like an hour, 2 hours max before his flights. Me, I take that 3-4 hour leap because I'm just like, I'm a bit skeptical in my mind, like probably the documents aren't correct. Probably the documents didn't go through. Did they approve them? Did it approve and go into the system? Coming from an island, I know there are a lot of mistakes and we're only human. So I ensure to get there in advance so I can check in probably 2 hours in advance, and I'll be in there at my gate just sitting down for 2 hours on my phone, twiddling my feet, probably buy some food, buy some drinks, call someone. And I mean, some people are like, oh my gosh, how can you stay at the airport for that long? I don't want to be there so long. And I'm just like, if you can sit down at home for 5 hours on your phone, just scrolling through TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat, I don't see why you can't do it sitting in an AC room in a nice airport. Hey, talk to a stranger or two. It is all for peace of mind. Hopping into my next topic, also for peace of mind, is accommodation. Now, how I go about accommodation is Airbnb and Facebook Marketplace. Usually Facebook Marketplace, if you're looking for an unfurnished place for long term, that would be ideally the place to go. But if you've never been there before and you definitely just want to pop in and out, or just stay there for a short period, probably 2 months, 3 months, then Airbnb may be the way to go. I usually just browse Facebook Marketplace because I don't stay anywhere or plan to stay anywhere for more than 3 months. I'm just trying to get a feel for each country I'm going to and then hop to the next one. Just trying to explore and enjoy myself a bit, you know? So Facebook Marketplace for me is more to get an idea of what is on offer, but mostly Airbnb is what I use. And you can hop onto Airbnb in advance of even booking your flight, or even before you even want to book accommodations, just to see what the architecture is like, get a sense of rental prices in that country and in the various areas. Always start a nice wish list, which I always do for each country I want to go to, and you can get a wide range, and always start with everything you want in the filter list. So for me, I set my price, I want an entire place, I put Wi-Fi, air conditioning, washer and dryer. Then from there, if I don't see places that I can afford or that I want to stay at, then I start removing some items to see what else there is on offer and what I can afford, and add to my wish list as needed. So in the future, when I'm ready to book, I will just open that wish list, set my dates, and see which ones are available. If none are available, then I'll go back to looking again, but by then, I will know which neighborhood and area I might want to stay in. Another tidbit to helping you book accommodation, hop onto Google Maps. I know Airbnb isn't going to give you the exact location, but it does give you an area. And you can search that area on Google Maps to see what is the walking distance for you to certain amenities you might like. For me, amenities I look for is a mall and a supermarket. I love a good walk or stroll to a mall and a supermarket. Now you've booked your accommodation, you've booked your ticket, now how are you getting from the airport? So we're on to transportation. And not transportation in the sense of how you get around in the city or area or country, but rather how you get from the airport to your destination. And you can easily use a ride-sharing app if they are available, but some places probably don't allow them onto the airport compound, such as Merida, Mexico. So once I arrived, as you know, irritated as I was, I just caught an airport taxi. From my understanding, some airports have airport taxis and airport shuttles, airport buses. The airport bus may carry you to a certain location in the city and drop you off, or you can then catch a ride-sharing app, or the airport shuttle or airport taxis will then carry you directly to your location that you wish to go. Do note that it will be more expensive than a casual taxi ride or ride-sharing app within the city itself because you are an international person. Because I do know and do hear a person saying, oh my gosh, you're charged so much when you're at the airport. But it's one trip, you paid all that money to get there, just pay that little extra for the person to drop you from there to there. Is a company guaranteed to offer you hopefully good service because they're working in connection with international people in connection at the airport. Something else that is key that I usually do is screenshot the location of where I will be staying along with the owner or property manager's contact information as well. So download it in your native language or screenshot it in your native language and in the foreign language. So in my case, I always have in English and in Spanish. That way, once I arrived in the country, as I did and couldn't speak Spanish, and I was just too tired and bothered to even try, I just pulled up the screenshot and showed them, they read it, and then they went through with their route. I also advise to walk with a couple USD. So if you're traveling with a lot of money or quite a bit for that country, probably put a couple USD into your wallet or purse and put the bulk of it somewhere else. So when you go to pay that person, you don't open your wallet and then they see all the money you have and then label you as a target. Or you can get the currency of the country in which you're traveling to in advance from your bank in wherever you are, and then travel there with the currency so you'll be appropriate for that area and not be waving around some USD. Like if they couldn't tell you were a tourist already. Now that just about wraps up how I travel. Booking flights, booking accommodation, and getting myself from that airport. But I'll give you this one last extra tidbit I also do is download Google Translate and Google Maps in advance before I arrive to that country. I do so because I also download the language on Google Translate so I can use it offline to speak or translate any words I need to translate. And then I also download the offline maps of where I'm going, specifically from the airport to the area I'm staying at least. Because sometimes the airport is far away from the area you're staying in, so ensure not to just do the area you're staying in and not from the airport. Make sure to have that entire screen offline saved. That way you can actually turn it on while the taxi driver is driving and follow yourself and make sure you're going the right direction. Now that brings me to the end of this video. And I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a thumbs up. If you didn't, leave a thumbs down. Leave a comment, let me know if this was helpful or if there's something else that you do that you think I should know of. And then tap that subscribe button along with the little bell so you can be notified every single time I post. You can also schedule a chat with me using my Calendly link in the description below. And I hope to catch you in my next video. So see you later. Deuces.